Hey everyone, welcome back. So today I want to talk about a very important topic, and that's the distinction between narcissism and codependency. And the reason I want to cover this topic is because I've noticed a difficult or somewhat challenging trend of people confusing narcissism with codependency. And I just want to acknowledge that on the surface, that's completely understandable because there are certain behaviors and elements of the narcissistic relationship or dynamic that can look a lot like codependency. But the distinction is incredibly important because it can mean the difference between getting caught in a very, very damaging, manipulative relationship or being able to get the help and support perhaps that you might need or your relationship needs to be able to move forward into something much healthier and sustainable for you. So I just want to start by really defining and explaining what codependency is. And no doubt you've heard that term. It's nothing new at all. It's a very well-known term, but I think it's actually been misunderstood. It actually originated in the 1950s in the context of Alcoholics Anonymous. So it was sort of used to describe friends, partners, family members, anyone that's close to an alcoholic who engages in what they call enabling behavior. So does things that essentially allow the alcoholic to continue their bad behavior or just to continue being an alcoholic, being very unwell. And now it's sort of expanded very much to describe relationships as well, just any relationship, whether one or both partners is described as codependent. And in that context, as you probably know, it's more about describing behavior that is very dependent on one another in a relationship, that it's perhaps one partner being too needy or demanding, of attention and time and resources of their partner, that not being able to do things without their partner, or both partners being that way. And that's understandable, but it's come a long way from its original use or original conception in Alcoholics Anonymous. And I really want to make clear, and I think this is an incredibly important point. As a relationship counselor, sometimes I do see couples that come in and they do talk about one partner being codependent and saying, he or she is the codependent one. And if he or she were just to go and get some help, go and get some individual counseling or really work on their neediness and their codependency, then the relationship would be much better and it would run smoothly. And I guess, there are probably instances where that's the case. But for the vast majority of cases, it's not about one person being codependent and the problem. It's about how both partners affect each other in the relationship dynamic, or what I call the relationship dance. So what tends to happen is that partners have certain ways of behaving and responding to each other, which then elicits a certain response in the other one. So it's more like a back and forth, reciprocal kind of dance where they're feeding off each other, they're responding to each other. So I like to explain to couples that come in where they're talking about this element of codependency and really sort of unpack that and I guess, de-myth that, so to speak, and really talk about how relationships are a dynamic. It's two people interacting with each other. It's two people affecting each other. And, that's what we want to look at. We want to zoom out a little bit, stop looking at perhaps one partner and their tendencies, and look at how both partners are behaving and responding and affecting each other in the relationship dynamic. So, I guess when I mentioned before that there might be cases where it is perhaps the case that one person is very, very codependent and that's causing a big problem in the relationship. What I would suggest is happening in those sort of rarer examples is that the partner who is labelled as codependent probably does have a pretty severe mental health issue, like borderline personality disorder, or they may even be narcissistic themselves. So I'd say that when somebody is causing that level of distress in the relationship because of their codependent, so to speak, behavior, then, it's likely that they're actually quite unwell, disordered themselves. So I hope that makes sense. So I guess what I really wanted to also just bring up today, which is the point of this video, is that, it is actually quite dangerous in a lot of ways to confuse codependency with narcissism, or narcissism with codependency rather, because there are certain stages in the narcissistic relationship, like the love bombing phase, the initial phase where they are putting you on a pedestal and telling you that you're the greatest thing since sliced bread, showering you with praise and admiration, and it's on steroids. It's over the top. It's completely overblown. And sometimes to the untrained eye, this might actually be confused with codependency, because it's like, oh, look, he or she is really intense and, they want to spend all their time with me. They want to talk all the time. They're constantly sending messages. They're ringing every night. They're monopolizing my time. I don't have time to do anything else apart from be in this new relationship, which, let's face it, those beginning stages of a relationship can feel very, very magnetic and very addictive, and very, very seductive, because all the feel-good hormones are flying around, and, you're getting to know this new person, and the sexual chemistry is off the charts. So everybody, generally speaking, tends to really enjoy that stage of a relationship. But when it's with a narcissist and they're love bombing you, that's an entirely different game altogether. That is actually a very calculated, manipulative way to basically reel you in so that they can control you later on down the line. I mean, that in itself is actually a form of control. It's just that it feels a lot better than the type of control that comes later on in the relationship, when they start to devalue you and create all sorts of drama and chaos. So it's incredibly important to stand back a little bit when you're in the initial throes of a relationship with somebody and it feels, obviously feels great for the reasons that we spoke about before, but then there's an element of perhaps it feeling a little bit over the top or overwhelming, that, it's not just about this person being codependent. It is actually about this person transgressing boundaries in every way, shape, or form, and monopolizing your time and attention way beyond what is actually normal, even for that stage of the relationship. So this is why it's incredibly important to listen to those gut feelings. I mean, even though it can be very, very difficult, especially when you're overwhelmed with feel-good chemicals and the sexual attraction is off the charts. But again, it actually is a safety issue, because if you don't pay attention to that niggling gut feeling that this is just overwhelming and too much, and there's something not quite right about the way this person is just absolutely throwing every ounce of their time and attention and energy at me 24/7, and it does feel a bit overwhelming, then you can end up very much entrenched ensnared in a very, very manipulative and psychologically damaging relationship with someone who is either highly narcissistic or a full-blown narcissist, as in they have NPD, narcissistic personality disorder. So just very, very important to always listen to your internal compass when it's trying to tell you these things, to actually hear it and take it seriously, and to recognize that this person potentially is transgressing normal boundaries and manipulating my time and monopolizing my time, and then to sort of I guess blow it off as just being someone who maybe has some codependent issues. That's a dangerous game, and that can be the difference between ending up in a very damaging relationship or getting out, recognizing that this is not okay, it's a huge red flag, and walking away for your own psychological safety and your own future self. So that's incredibly important. So that's really all I wanted to talk about today. I really appreciate your time and attention, and I will be back soon with another enthralling video. Thanks so much for watching.